Listen up. Be you. You got this. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Keto, rock stars, stay strong. Be you. Bacon, beef, butter. Keto rock stars. Keto rock stars. Keto rock stars. Keto on, stay strong. Be you. Keto rock stars.
Welcome, Keto Rock Stars, to this edition of Sunday Night Live. Tonight we've got a very special guest, our beloved Paul Salvaterra. Did I say that right?
You did.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Paul. I have just a quick announcement. I want to say hi to a few people. Next week, you all want to turn in because it is a showdown, a cooking showdown between myself and Thomas Target Prime Rib. We're going to be in the kitchen and we're going to be doing something really beefy. So check in next week at 7 p.m. And then I want to say hi to a few people and then we're going to turn it over to Paul. Carrie is in the house. Dustin, Keto Simple, stopped by, but he is going to the movies. Can't wait to hear what he's watching. Juju's in the house. Hi, sweet Julie. We love you. Hope you're feeling better. Brian Dish is here. Welcome, Brian. Thank you for joining. And speak of the devil, we were just talking about you, Amy Perrin, Brisket Boomers, tuning in from a bus all the way to New York City. Welcome, Amy. Thank you for dropping in and saying hello. Let's see. Who else do we have here tonight? We've got Lynn, 22Q Cat. She always shows up to everything, everywhere. Bacon Runner, Donna Ray is in the house. Welcome, Donna Ray. Schmoovy, my neighbor. This is John. Greetings, y'all. Welcome, Schmoovy. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Oki's Eden. Hi, this is Jason. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for tuning in. A Mason is here. Welcome, A Mason. She said, good Lord. Hello, everyone again. And I missed all the live streams today because I've been doing work for my business, so I apologize. I'm sure there were some good ones today. Just Jerry. We all know her as Carnivore Jerry and Jerry in the Middle of the Forest, but now she's just Jerry. The only thing missing is you. That's what she says. Rick Twin Brook Acres is in the house. Welcome, Rick. And then Carrie says his joke. What did the flower say when he found out it was allergy season? You've got to be pollen my leg. That's a good one. Thank you, Carrie. Hope you're doing all right. Holly Springer's in the house. Welcome, Holly. Cindy DeManch is here. And just so you know, at 8 p.m., Cindy's going live. So welcome, Cindy. Thank you for tuning in. Oh my gosh, I can't keep up. North Dakota Carnivore Lance is in the house. Welcome, Lance. Thank you for tuning in. It's good to see you again. Let's see. Yes, I saw the joke, Carrie. Jiffy's in the house. Welcome, Jiffy 388 Strange Animal. Thank you for tuning in. Oh my goodness. You see if I got everybody? Just scrolling through these. Okay, so I think I got everybody. So Paul, tell us about your story. How did you get into this carnivore community? Tell us about you and how you got here.
Okay. Let's do the basics. My name is Paul Salvaterra. Sounds Italian. It's not. It's a Latin word. Salva meaning salvation. Terra meaning earth. Save the land, okay? It was the battle cry in driving the mongrels from Asia out of Europe. And that was way back. I can trace my lineage back about 15 generations. I can go back to my 15th great grandfather. 1300s. Anyhow.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. So I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic on May 4th to 1992. I was turned 36 that year. Was already type 2 diabetic. I was a carboholic. And I had a full life. I had 3 children. I had a wife. And I had one income. Very demanding job. I was an engineer most of my life, and so I didn't have a whole lot of time to take care of Paul. And back then, when I was diagnosed diabetic, the A1C test was not even standardized yet. Okay,
Mhm.
A1C in 1992 was lab dependent. Lab A did not agree with Lab B, and eventually, in a few years, they got that straightened out. Okay, so a lot of stress in my life. Like I said, one income, trying to manage a family, very active family. I had a daughter first, then two sons. And that first son, he was age 12. And he was diagnosed with deadly cancer. Anyhow, doc said he's got one chance of 10 to make him being alive a year from now. And I think it was God's interference that I moved from Massachusetts to North Carolina. Every doctor we met in our cancer adventure was just wonderful. So we decided the best, there was no radiation. Only 50 kids a year get this deadly thing. There's no radiation, no chemo, no nothing. Cut the leg off and hope you had a margin of safety from where they found cancer and they cut. So my son at age 12 had a below the knee amputation, and his leg goes in the freezer, and whatever department in the hospital is supposed to cut this leg up and just like slicing it on the meat slicer and looking down at the bone, find the cancer, and we are blessed. 5 inches margin of safety from the cut to the first sign of cancer. And so he made it. He's alive. He's well. Everything's fine. We had a few scares along the way, and we wrote our own book. We did it our way. And my son said, I just want to know whatever's coming. I just want to know right as soon as I just want to know right away. And so that's the way we did it. So life was hectic. I got divorced. I got 3 kids off into the world, and very hard to keep a job when your son who has cancer and artificial leg now is eating up medical doctors at the company.
Mhm.
All big companies are basically self-insured. There's no there's they're paying out of pocket for this stuff, and basically how it works. And so about 6-7 years ago, I said, what am I doing in North Carolina? I got a son and daughter in Philadelphia. I got one son left in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's still there, the youngest. And I said, so I moved up to Pennsylvania, settled into Amish land, and I could easily get the train and go to Philadelphia and see my 2 children. And my daughter started having children. My daughter has all 4 of my grandchildren. And she had a boy, then she had 3 girls. And let's just cover the very important stuff real quick. I just got off the phone with my grandson about an hour ago. He's just had his final practice. He's getting on a big aluminum tube with wings on it with my daughter, and they're flying to Chicago sometime this week. I'm not sure when. And he's going to be
By me.
competing. He's going to be competing in the World Championship Irish dance competitions. He's way above his head. He's about the youngest in his group of performers, and these others have been there before 2 or 3 times. So anyhow, we wish him well.
Okay.
I hope he
So
does really well.
since you brought it up, you did send me a video. Do you mind if I just go ahead and show that now since you brought it up?
Go ahead.
Let me. Oh, hold on. Give me a second here. I'm going to pull this up. I put these in a special folder for Paul. Okay, let me bring this up and I will pause it and then we will share it. So, any of you who watch, here we go. Okay, any of you who watch Paul on any other channels, know that his pride, both your grandson and your granddaughter dance, right? Both of them?
All four, but the two oldest are at the top of the heap, so to speak. And
So
they're both
anyone,
in July. They're both
yeah.
going to nationals. Yeah.
Okay, so Paul shared this with me when he's talking about his grandchildren dancing. And is this your grandson or is this your grandson and your granddaughter?
No, it's just my grandson with much older ladies.
Ooh, that's fun. Good for him. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm going to play this clip because Paul asked, he sent it to me, and he's very proud of his grandson. So here we go. Is that him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the only guy. He's the only guy in this. Yep, that's him.
He's so
He can-
good.
He's got a great kick. And those shoes are taped to his feet so they don't come off.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is huge. Okay, like in January they have one at Hershey, Pennsylvania. 1,800 kids dance. 1,800 kids.
Wow.
And those are banners from awards they've won or wherever, and kind of like Miss America.
Wow.
And they kind of all look the same, but there's points deducted for the smallest little technicalities. And I couldn't tell you anything about it, and you get judged by one judge, and it's very objective. Or it's very, I shouldn't say it's objective. It's partial to the judge, and maybe you smile, and maybe that judge doesn't like smiling, or maybe you don't smile, and that judge wants smiles. It just, you know, he does very well in competitions, and so next Sunday we might be reporting that hey, he medaled in the world championships. We hope, and
Yes.
I know how he thinks. I know what he's thinking right now. He dreams every night he's gonna be walking up to the top of the podium, and his mother's trying to tell him, well, if you get invited back, that's a win. Now that's kissing your sister, okay? And and he's 11 and a half. Hormones are kicking in, and it's
Hmm.
and he's a tough kid, because you can imagine at school all the other boys are playing. They all got jock straps, and they're all got football
Playing
helmets.
football. Mm-hmm.
And he's a sissy, dancing sissy dances, and so his idol in that is Patrick Swayze. Okay, because Patrick Swayze was a little patsy girl in high school, dancing ballet or whatever he was doing, with his mother, and so he saw a movie or something, and his other occupation is long distance running, and he wins a lot of races, and he's the fastest kid at his school. He's the fastest boy in his school. They have a contest every year to see who the fastest is, and his little sister was the fastest, and then another girl moved in from another school district, and she's now the fastest, and that does not sit well with Fiona. So my grandkids are all half Irish. They got dual passports, and so much for that. Okay, all right.
Yes. Okay. So I want to say hi to a few more people real quick.
Go ahead.
We got
Say hi to everybody.
Lizzie's in the house. Hi, Lizzie. Kathy B is here. Sharon is in the house. Welcome, Sharon. My sister Janine is watching on Facebook. Welcome. And
Cool.
Juliet, Coach Juliet is here. Thanks for
Hi,
tuning in,
Juliet.
everybody. So, okay. So tell us more. Back to your story. And
Okay.
so you got divorced, you were raising your kids, you had stressful jobs, and how did How did and in the night like 92? Did you have a weight issue? What was your diet like back then? Tell us about that. Like, were you eating
Well,
crap or?
I was a carboholic, okay? And when I was at the gas station, I didn't buy one candy bar, I bought three. Okay. When I was in
Mhm.
Wegmans, I didn't get one cookie. I got six, three to eat on the way home and three to eat when I got home. And at one time out of guilt, I ate an entire dozen glazed donuts. I was trying to destroy the evidence. Okay. Uh,
Mhm.
and my whole life, carbs were my security blanket. Okay. And I was always filled with anxiety, and I hated school. I enjoyed college, but I hated school, and that's just the way it was. And I was very determined, like a lot of people in my family, are very determined, and so and and being in and out of jobs, as in and out of healthcare, insurance. The first year of Obamacare, I qualified, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't get on the roll, and so sometimes about then I was insulin dependent. I'm allergic to most diabetic drugs. Not allergic, but I just don't tolerate them well. And so I move up to Pennsylvania. I turned 65, and this is where the journey really starts. And I said, okay, I got to do something. So I got my Medicare. I got doctors, and I go into the doctor, and then start walking, and I start listening to stuff. Okay, and I had an appointment with a endocrinologist, and he told me about how he only eats 20 carbs a day. And he had a history. He had, his whole family was a little overweight and a lot of type 2 diabetes, and he was trying to fight that. So I go home and I Google, 20 carbs a day diet, and obviously now I'm into the whole culture, right? And the first guy I really found was Jason Fung. And I used to walk and listen to Fung. He had a lot of long videos. And then, I met Sarah Hallberg. Oh my God, I love Sarah Hallberg.
She passed away,
Very
didn't she?
good.
Is she the one that died?
Yeah, yeah. And she did the 500-person study and showed,
Mhm.
if you're 8 years or less and you're type 2 diagnosis, you got a really good chance of beating it fairly quickly within 2 years. You can reverse it. And she was from Lafayette, Indiana. That's where she practiced.
Mhm.
And she did not start out as a medical doctor. It was later in her career she became a medical doctor. And 25% of the people in Lafayette, Indiana at one time were on a low carb diet. So it can take, and it was two colleges, Purdue and Eastern Indiana University, I think. And so
You're
they
speaking
had,
my area. You're speaking my area. I'm
yeah,
in northern Indiana.
so they had uh, it's big college town, two big colleges, pizza shops everywhere. Every pizza shop had a low carb pizza or carnivore pizza. Every pizza shop offered one. And she was amazing. Okay. And, you know, that's the bonus question. Who funded her study? Okay.
Mhm.
Some guy from Shark Tank, we all know who that was. Okay. So very quickly, I find Barry and I find all the whole cast of characters, and so I'm cutting carbs, and then I found out that, the insulins that I was on when I was on the wrong insulins. They were piggybacking each other. And so my blood sugar was crashing low, soaring high, crashing high, just the typical chasing everything, And so I very quickly started cutting my carbs. So I'm 65, 66 years old. I'm on this journey, and I'm I say I'm in and out of carnivore and keto, and just it's hard to stick with it, and but for the most part I was kind of with it. And so then kind of last year, I kind of said, okay, I'm zero carb. It's the only thing is, I've turned the carb down, the berry, turn the carb down, turn the carb down. So I'm at zero. And actually, I had to break the knob and go to negative. How do you go negative on carbs? You take insulin, counteracts the carbs. Okay. So I'm an insulin dependent diabetic, is basically what I am. So I'm really, I function as a type 1 diabetic. And we'll talk to endocrinologists in less than 2 weeks, and we may do some further testing to see exactly where I'm at. Check the C-peptide, check some enzymes, stuff like that. Okay, so what's happened in the last 6 weeks? This is the biggest part of my journey, in my opinion. Hats off to Bernstein. He's my idol now. He's dead, unfortunately. Lived to be 90. Was type 1 diabetic at age 9. Wrote the book Diabetic Solutions. Became a medical doctor at age like 44, something like that. He was the oldest graduate in his medical class. And he pioneered the at-home strip testing for your blood glucose. He pioneered that, okay? And back then, you used to put your drop of blood on like blotter paper and smear it across the thing and then wash it off a minute later and take your little color chart and line it up and, okay, my blood sugar's in this range now. That was the start of it. And so I follow him very closely, and you'll hear me talk a lot about him. And basically his philosophy is if it's good for a type 1 diabetic, it's good for all diabetics, okay?
Yep.
So
Yep.
his diet is 30 carbs for an adult. His diet is 30 carbs a day, 6 for breakfast, 12 for lunch, 12 for dinner. And he's very keen on you eat the same fat, protein, carb every day. Every meal is the same as far as the macros go, okay? So you're very consistent in what your body's getting. I eat 1 meal a day. I got 2 differences. I eat 0 carbs and I eat 1 meal a day. And so I'm a little bit different from that aspect. So that's when, and after Christmas, I was a Coke Zero alcoholic also. I had 3 of those 16-ounce bottles every day. And on average, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 1 or 2. And
It was this year,
so,
after Christmas this year, right?
yeah, it's last Christmas. Yeah, so I don't drink that stuff anymore. And then at the end of January, all of a sudden, my insulin needs went in half. I was on about 66 units. I dropped to like 33 units in like 1 week or week or 2. Okay.
So isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Because Coke Zero is supposed to have 0 sugar, right?
Well,
how is it that you stop drinking the Coke Zero and then your insulin requirements cut in half? Right?
I don't know, and maybe they're not related. We don't know whether it's related or not. We can't say it is or not. I can't say
That's
that.
right.
Okay. And so there's no nutritional science. Okay, we're all N equals 1, and we do the best we can.
Mhm.
We don't lock people up in labs, and you've heard all the arguments. And so I started watching. There's a lot of Bernstein videos on the internet, and there's a lot. Both Chafee and Baker have it, and Barry have all interviewed Dr. Bernstein when he was alive.
Mhm.
Great videos, and so I started gleaning from that, And just a shout out to Amy Fields. Last name starts with a P. I can't remember it.
Parent. She's
yeah.
Brisket Boomers.
Brisket Boomers, yep. And
Yep.
I've recently joined her group, and I've learned a lot from her videos, and she makes some great videos, great content. She has one that I very much admired. She showed a diabetic going through a low blood sugar event. I think she had great courage to make that, and I learned stuff from just watching that video. And I saw, wow, she's not taking on many carbs to counteract that. She knows her body very well. And so anyhow, I've been on this real Bernstein kick, and my objective is, Bernstein says your blood sugar should be at 83 for an adult, okay? And he thinks your A1C ought to be 4.5, not 5.5, 5.6, okay? So that's where I'm headed. I'm getting there. And I'm using about half the insulin I used just 3 months ago. And so zero carbs really, and I've been so serious about zero carb since about last August. I got through Halloween, I got through Thanksgiving, I got through Christmas, I got through New Year's, I got through every craving, I got through Valentine's Day. Now I'm getting through Easter, carb free. Okay, just and all this stuff. Oh, just you eat one ribeye steak and all your cravings for sweets go away. Bullshit. Okay, doesn't
I
happen that
agree
way. It
with you
didn't happen.
there. Mhm.
Most difficult addiction on the planet Earth. Okay, smokers, alcoholics, cocaine, heroin, whatever other drugs. They all got it fairly easy. Okay, sugar's very bad. Okay, and I won't even go into the whole sugar attorney thing. And we all know who owns a big food company now. It's big tobacco about the big food companies. Okay, so
Yes. Was it Reynolds? What's the name of the J.R. Reynolds or whatever it is? R.J. Reynolds. I forget what it was. The
RJ
tobacco.
Reynolds, yeah,
R.J. Reynolds bought Big
Kraft.
Food and
Yep.
made the food addictive, just like they did cigarettes. But when they got in trouble with cigarettes, then they turned to something that they couldn't get in trouble with.
So
So,
you can't compete
yeah.
with the food scientists. You can't compete. And when you go down to your local bakery and you're going to get a wedding cake, guess what? That wedding cake is made from a commercial mix. Okay, because
Mhm.
you can't make a cake that good from scratch. You can't do it. Okay, and so the food science. I think the most interesting thing is Nabisco started with the Oreo cookie. They hired the food scientist from Hydrox who had the Oreo cookie. There was the original Oreo cookie. Okay, so they hired the food scientist, and he gave them the recipe for the chocolate wafers. Okay, the little chocolate biscuits, and they developed their food scientists developed the cream filling, and the cream filling was designed to taste good with milk. Okay, and to this day, it's basically the same formulation. It tastes good with milk. And there's the Oreo cookie. Is there anything more addicting than an Oreo cookie? Probably not. And you can't eat just one. You can't do it. Okay. And I have eaten a whole family pack in one sitting. Man, my stomach hurt a little bit, but I ate the whole pack. And haven't done that in a long, long time. So,
Okay. Can I say hi to a few more people?
yeah, go ahead.
So First of all, just so you all know, this is my husband. He never watches my live streams. He usually watches the replays, but he is on short-term disability right now, so he gets to stay up a little later. So my husband tuned in to tell us he loves me. And Brian Dish, I think, said to Dennis, I hope you're feeling better. You see, these are my friends, Dennis, and they're now your friends too, right? So everybody's here supporting you. And then we've got Jenny's in the house. We've got Spanky, our wonderful supporter. Josephine is here. Kelly, Broken Carnivore's in the house. Angela Mullins, Coach Angela Mullins, my dad is saying, hey, Double D to my husband. That's his nickname, Double D. For Dennis Davis, DD, right? So Double D is what we call him, his nickname. CB is in the house. My classmate and the Bud Files. Thank you all for joining. We really appreciate. I just got to say real quick, I appreciate everyone who tunes in from week to week, and everybody. I've been spending a lot of time recording videos, and believe me, that takes a lot of time. And everybody has been watching my videos, and it shocks me because I don't really think I'm that good at them. But I just want to everybody who's a member of the channel, everybody who tunes in every week, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You have no idea how much that means. It's really helping me here, help people, tell Paul's story, tell other stories, and we may reach one person. And now I'm streaming to Rumble, I'm streaming to Facebook, and I'm streaming here because I think it's important that we get this out to multiple platforms, because people who are on YouTube aren't going to be on Rumble, and people who watch on Facebook aren't going to be on YouTube. So, okay, so that's my 2 cents. All right, Paul, back to you.
So let me tell some cute little stories here that go hand in hand with my adventures. So about a year ago, I moved about 30 miles from the southern part of this county to the northern part of this county. And so I had to find a new primary care physician. And of course, that doctor approached me with caution, saw my file and said, "Oh my God, he's a non-compliant patient," And I've been very blessed. I feel God. I'm not real religious, but I feel God blessed me. I'm totally allergic to all statins. So I've never taken a statin for more than 20 days. And so I'm 35 years statin free, if you will. And I think that was a blessing. My kidneys are powerfully strong. When I do lab tests, my one primary care physician looks at me in disgust, like they are upset that I'm got such strong kidneys. Okay, they can't believe my kidney function after having high blood sugar for 35 years. How do you have kidney function like this? Okay, and I have pretty good heart health. I was accidentally knocked unconscious in a parking lot, got ran over by a car, and other than a bump on the head, I was unconscious in the hospital. They didn't know what was wrong with me, scanned me many times. I have a wonderful heart. And they were worried about something. I don't know, I can't remember what, but they did an echocardiogram. The next day, a cardiologist comes, visits me, tells me I've got this beautiful heart. He goes, he wanted to know all about my relatives and stuff about my father's heart history and stuff like that. And he doesn't know why I just have this nice heart. And so I moved up here, I got this new primary care physician, and I had a small issue I wanted to jump on right away. And physician wasn't available, so I had a different one. So I go into this office and I get read the Riot Act. You're almost 70 years old. Quit dreaming of a 5.6 A1C blood sugar. Stop thinking about that. You're in the 7 to 8 range now. It's where you belong. Okay? You're taking insulin. We don't want you dying of a low blood sugar event. Okay? This is what all the doctors worry about or say they worry about. Okay? I sometimes think they just want to keep us sick so we generate more dollars. Let's talk about diabetes real quick. Every other person in the United States is type 2 diabetic. Every other person. They're pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or undiagnosed. 54%, goes up 2%, almost 2% every year. By 2030, it'll be 60%. Every 4 out of 10 hospital beds are occupied by diabetic complications. 4 out of 10. Okay? It's $1.7 billion every day. Okay? Every day. All right? We cut off a diabetic leg every 3 minutes. Okay? So the son I told you about who had cancer is a one-legged wonder, I call him lovingly. He's had several careers. He was a butcher, and he was a chef, restaurant manager. He's now makes artificial legs. He's a prosthetic technician. I can say prosthetic. And that's a big challenge for me. And so I never want to be a customer of his. Okay. He has sponsors. He has a running foot. He's been to Chicago, Milwaukee. He's been to Charlotte and Charleston and DC and Fort Lauderdale. And of course, he lives in Philadelphia. Last Thanksgiving, he ran his first half marathon, finished in just right at 2 hours, which was double the time of the champion who won it in just about 1 hour. And he amazed everyone. He lost 100 pounds last year. Chicken and broccoli. He's not a carnivore. And he logged 1,000 miles.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, he's not
I was
a
going to
carnivore.
ask how he eats.
He's chicken and broccoli. He gets a craving at 11 o'clock at night. He goes to the local burger place. It's about 6 blocks from his house, and he gets the double slammer burger, fries, and shake. And it is what it is. But he can run a half marathon. And
Hey, we have a question.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a second for a
Go
question?
ahead.
Kathy B here is, I believe she's newish to this community. So welcome, Kathy. And she says, being a diabetic type 2, I started listening to all of these channels and I can't turn away. I have my diabetes in check. So she wants to know, Paul, if you were nervous about using butter and everything as well as heavy cream. I'm assuming when you first started, were you nervous at all about this?
No, I never believed that bullshit. Pardon my French, but I never. And if you go, here's who I listen to: Eric Westman. Okay, calm, cool, collect,
Mhm.
and right. Okay,
Mhm.
Chafee, Baker, Barry, and Tony Hampton. Okay, those are kind of like my. I do. I hit everybody a little bit, but for the pure science, that's where I go. Okay, and you know, Eric Westman just had a video out this last week, and he basically says, a lot of doctors are still hanging on to the cholesterol, old school cholesterol thinking. Okay, and he said, small particles, fluffy particles, dense particles. He says it's all BS. It's all old school. There's no proof yet. Okay, people think that maybe this, and all it is the whole cholesterol thing. Again, they're just saying, well, this still could be an issue, and here's where we're looking. And here we got Eric Westman, who's been an outstanding medical doctor for years, helped thousands and thousands, tens and hundreds of thousands of people, and he's saying bullshit. Okay, and only as Dr. Westman can, and I also look at what doctors don't say, and look at there's that guy in New Zealand. We all know who I'm talking about. And you don't see him talk a whole lot about people who are adding carbs back into carnivore. He thinks he's, I know what his personal thoughts are. His thoughts are, it's an addiction. They just want an excuse to go back to carbs. Okay? No carbs are needed in your diet. None. You don't need any. If you need glucose, your body will make it. And everybody thinks, well, the liver makes all that, gluconeogenesis. That's where all the carbs come from, from protein. No, that's not all of it. That's maybe 60%. Guess what organ makes sugar from protein? Your kidneys. Your kidneys can make a lot of sugar. Okay? They can make 40% of what your liver makes. So, there's so much we don't know, so much I don't know. I'm learning every day more and more about diabetes.
Me too.
You ever heard of insulin dilution? You dilute the insulin so you can get a more accurate dose, okay?
No.
I never knew there was half unit syringes. Insulin is measured in units. Take 8 units, okay, or take 4 units or whatever. Well, what if you need 1.5 units? There are syringes that measure out 1.5 units or 6.5 units. You can get the half unit in, okay? It's a special syringe, okay? You go to an insulin manufacturer and you say, hey, I would need to dilute my insulins, and their insulin is dilutable. They'll give you an empty bottle and they'll give you a bottle of dilution solution, okay? I didn't even know that stuff existed, okay? Let's give a shout out to Walmart, okay? Maybe the greatest company in America. What's so great about it? Diabetic supplies there are cheap. Needles,
Yep.
12 cents a piece. The needle that goes on the end of your pen, 18 cents a piece. Walk into Walgreens and buy a pack of 10 and pay $5, $6, $8, okay? You're paying nearly $1 a piece for a needle, okay? At a Walmart, they're 18 cents, okay? Walmart's got the needle stick. Let's talk about blood sugar monitoring, okay? I monitor my blood sugar. I wear CGM. I wear the Libra brand. It's consistently inaccurate, okay? By 20%. So when my blood sugar says 100 on my CGM, it's really 120, okay? I have verified this in several ways. I do the finger stick, and on my glucometer, okay? I use the Walmart glucometer, costs $9. And I know all the right rules. I know exactly how to prick my finger. I know how to wash them. I know how to do all the things to eliminate any variability in my results. And what else do I do? Okay. So I put a new sensor on, it calms down after 2 days, and I'm wondering, where is this sensor really at? So I go down on your labs and I make an appointment for a blood glucose test. So I walk into the lab and I bring with me my glucometer and my test strips. And I explained to the technician who's going to draw my blood, I just need a drop of blood on the end of this. We want to check, see how I agree. So I record my CGM reading. And just recently that was 82. My finger stick was 99. And the lab result was 98. Okay. So I know exactly about 18, 19% low. Okay. So I take my CGM and I multiply it by 1.9, 1.18, 1.19, right around there. And it gives me a true indication of what my blood glucose is, and it's very consistent, okay? And there's something to be said for consistency, even though my blood sugar runs consistently low on my CGM. Doesn't make me happy, and I'm going to discuss with my endocrinologist about changing over to the Dexcom G7. And I've been doing a lot of research, and I was colorblind. I got blindsided by the data. And I thought, I'm seeing 4-to-1 complaints. I'm seeing 4 times as many people complain about Dexcom over Libre. Why? Well, they sell 4 times as many CGMs. So there's more people out there to complain. Okay, so the complaint level is about the same, and
Okay.
we'll look back. Go ahead.
I want to stop you for a second, but then I want to come back to the CGM thing here in just a second, because we were talking about cholesterol, right? And this is my dad. He's 81. How old are you, Paul?
70 this year. 70.
He says, I'm worried about getting off statins. I'm 81 and have been on them since age 45. So almost, 40 years he's been on them. And then he says, Amy has been trying to talk me off of them, but my doctor says no. I don't think it would hurt. Next appointment, I'm going to ask him how many years it will cut from my life. And Dr. Barry says it will add 5 years to your life, or 5 days, 5 days to your life. Now, Dad, what I recommend you do, I'm not a doctor, so you don't necessarily have to listen to me. Plus, I'm your daughter and I don't know everything, but I highly recommend reading this book. And I will buy it for you by Stephen Sinatra and Johnny Bowden, called The Great Cholesterol Myth. Excellent book. And that's what really changed my mind about statins. And Paul, I wanted to ask you, have you ever been on a statin, and what was your experience with it? Because I believe you have.
I have 20 days, intense bilateral arm and leg pain, crippled me, could not walk, quit taking the statin. And so the doctor said, let's try the other brand. And so we tried the other brand, same result, 21 days later. I believe God blessed me to be allergic to statins. And, your dad's probably it's not anybody's fault, but some people really worship their doctors, okay? And I had this one lady, matter of fact, it was today at Walmart, I was shopping, and this lady says, well, my doctor explained to me how I've got my chances of heart attack and stroke and all that have been reduced by well over 50% because I'm on a statin, okay? And it's BS, and there's no proof of that whatsoever. And cholesterol doesn't cause heart attacks, okay? Go to the American Heart Association and look at their pie chart. LDL is ranked 14th. It's 1 degree. There's 360 degrees in the pie, okay? 1 degree of the pie is LDL, and they're not even sure about that. It's number 14. And what's the biggest risk for heart attack? Type 2 diabetes. What's the second biggest risk? Metabolic bad metabolic function, okay? What's the third? High blood pressure. Those 3 things occupy, what, 2/3 of the pie? Almost 3/4 of the pie? So you go in and you got a blood sugar of you got an A1C of 6.4, pre-diabetic, okay? And you got a cholesterol, you got an LDL of 140, and they want you on a statin right away, okay? What about your diabetes? We just ignore that? It's wrong, wrong, wrong. Okay? American Diabetes Association, those people should be in jail. Okay? Should be in prison. If I was president, they'd be in prison. I'd bring them up on charges. Period. And, you know, and so, maybe your dad would respond to a level-headed. There's no more level-headed, wonderful doctor than Dr. Eric Westman, okay? Calm, cool, collecting. Just he just kind of goes, "Well, this person's very misguided," and living the old paragram, and yeah, it's ridiculous, and we don't need that, and you know, I know my primary care doctor thinks that I'm going to have a stroke someday, and it's all due to all this fatty stuff I eat and everything, and I don't count anything, okay? I don't have a ketone meter. I don't measure ketones. I could care less. I don't worry about it. I only monitor my blood sugar and my blood pressure. It's the only things I monitor. I don't count carbs. I don't count protein. I don't count macros. I don't count calories. I don't count steps. I don't do any of that garbage, okay? 1 week, I have just completed my first week at the gym. I joined Silver Sneakers. I go to my local rec department. I lift very high. I followed the Dr. Bernstein training for 70-year-olds plus is people over 70. And I think I'm seeing already my insulins. I am very insulin resistant. How do I know that? I can take a good load of insulin, inject it into my body, and it's supposed to take effect in 20 minutes. Well, it's 40 minutes or an hour and a half before I see an effect. And it's a slow effect. My body does not like insulin. I ate 3 times the carbs anybody else ate for 65 years, okay? That's what I did, okay? And, I was so concerned about my family and the stress of life and everything else, I didn't have time for Paul, okay? And if we had somebody on here, the question was, I'm newly diagnosed. I think she's pretty much newly diagnosed type 2 diabetic. Get that Bernstein book and follow it, damn. That's all I can tell you. If you don't, you're stupid, okay? Just saying it like, that's all there is to it. And here's a doctor who over and over came out against the ADA, okay? And said, you people are wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. And do you know he went to medical conferences and he was gagged? The moderator would not allow him to ask a question. He was gagged, okay? Not allowed to ask a question at a medical conference. And nobody gave, and there's one story I heard from Dr. Bernstein. It was a young child, 7 years old, type 1 diabetic, and the parents went on vacation and they forgot her medical kit. So they didn't have this anti-vomiting medicine. I guess if you're vomiting, there's something you can take and it stops the vomiting, which stops the dehydration and can save life of a child diabetic. And they had Dr. Bernstein's personal number. They called him, what do we do? Get to the hospital. It's 1 hour away. Go to the hospital. They get to the hospital. They come in. Their daughter's got the high ketones in her blood. Chance of death is at the door somewheres. And the hospital's policy is child comes in, we put her on a glucose IV immediately, okay? Got to run her blood sugar up to 1,000 or so. And so she calls Dr. Bernstein and has Dr. Bernstein talk to the ER emergency. It's intensive care she was in. And he says, you want to kill this kid, huh? Well, this is our policy. This is what we do. Well, what's your death rate? 55%. They gave this kid an IV and they knew 55% chance he was going to die from the IV. 55% chance. He says, would you like me to fax you a note that says don't do it? And they did. Saved the girl's life probably.
Okay. I'm gonna cut in and I'm gonna say hi to retired Rick. Rick, quack quack, Charger Mopar's in the house. Welcome. Nikki, Miss Laugh-A-Lot's in the house. Uncle Charlie's in the house. Bride's Biscuits in the house, and John is in the house. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so back to the CGM talk. You had
Yeah.
sent me a screenshot of your readings for this week.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a diabetic. I do test my glucose just for fun, right? But you're probably way more of an expert in the diabetes. You and Amy Perrin are more in Thomas because I've never dealt with diabetes. So I'm going to share the screen and I want you to tell me about this. Let me just get this up here and then you can talk through what this
Okay.
screenshot means. Give me a second. We'll pull these up because you sent this to me right before the stream. So let me.
Yeah.
Actually, the numbers I'm seeing don't look too bad, but
Well, they're you gotta remember they're depressed by 20%. Okay, those are not real blood sugar numbers.
okay.
So
So
this
can everybody
this
see that?
need-
So talk us through this.
Yeah. So what this is a report. It's set on the 7 days. So for the last 7 days, this is my average glucose, and it's divided into 8 time periods. Okay. So this is a measurement that I use and I make decisions off of. And so when you see that for the last 7 days, my blood sugar average is like 76, I think, right around there. So you have to multiply that by 1.8, okay? And that gets me to what my real number is, which is right about 90, okay? So my blood sugar is about 89, 90. That's been my average blood sugar for the last week. And, I called the CGM. I've talked to the CGM companies. I've talked to their hotlines, and they have several people on their hotline. And I talked to somebody who knew all about errors and all that kind of stuff. And how accurate we are, and it is what it is. Okay, I told you how I verified with labs and finger sticks what my blood glucose actually is, and I've seen Amy do this on. She's had a video where she's actually checked, confirmed her meter with her finger stick right on. Well, I've seen it, and so there's no way I can adjust for this within my software of my meter. The G7 does have a correction factor you can introduce, so you can up to 3 times for one sensor you can adjust your, and so you're basically putting in like a multiplier effect, So I would put in a multiplier effect of 0.2, and it would increase all my blood sugar by 20%, and report the numbers that way, and they'd be fairly accurate. I do have to say, CGMs are in their infancy still, they're not perfect. You have to learn how to work with your CGM. For some people, you gotta remember, you're taking a good sized needle and it's jamming through your arm and it's taking this filament and sticking it into your arm. So I punctured a hole in your skin. Then I introduced a foreign substance, a filament, okay? And this is gonna read your fluid around there, that not your blood, but your fluid, your cellular fluid. And it's going to come up with a blood sugar number. Okay. They got all this technology built in this little chip. And so I've inflamed the site. So my body's responding to the inflammation. The blood sugars are not going to be accurate for 12, 24 or more hours. Now, I'm not giving medical advice here. I'm not telling you what to do. I'll tell you what I do. And I got it from other diabetics. It's not my original thought. And there's a practice known as pre-soaking. So I got 2 arms. I wear my sensor on the back of my arm, and you kind of. So what do I do? So I got 2 days left on I got a day left on my sensor. Just got the 24-hour notice. In 24 hours, the sensor is going to go bad. It's going to end, and it's a 15-day sensor. So I take a new sensor, I put it on my other arm, and just let it soak in there. Haven't turned it on. I'm just letting it soak. Okay. So my body's trying to cure the inflammation. And so now when I go over, I'll scan it with my phone. It'll turn it on. That's how mine works. And an hour later, it'll be giving me blood glucose readings, and they'll be more steady and more closer to reality because it's had that soak period. The inflammation's cured up. This is how it's described by people who know, and that's kind of how it works. And most manufacturers will not recommend pre-soaking. Okay, and it makes a big difference, though. I've seen it myself. And so 5 years from now, my prediction is we will be looking at, CGMs will be deadly. It will be very accurate, plus or minus 2 or 3%, maybe that good, at least plus or minus 5%. And they will be very reliable. You put a sensor on, it'll last 15 days. Maybe they have 30-day sensors by then. I don't know, but it's going to be great. And it's a tool, and you just have to learn how to use it. And right now, it's kind of a shovel with a not real strong handle, and you have to be careful how you pry the rock up out of the garden or whatever, however you want to say it. You got to use it to the best of its ability, and that's what I do with it. Just to let you know, I have a math science background in my life. I was trained as an engineer. I was trained to think logically. And from a problem solving standpoint, I'm better at analyzing a rock slide than a sociology major. Okay, I understand the different principles. Going to engineering school was the most amazing thing in my life. I started off in 1974, and I was amazed when we did the calculation. How fast does the rocket have to go to escape Earth's gravity? 17,500 miles per hour. And I did the calculation. I understood interplanetary space mechanics, okay? And people don't realize when we went to the moon, when those guys went around the moon the first time, to go into moon lunar orbit, they could have shot off into space and been gone forever. Never came back. Bye. Those guys had the brass balls, okay? And, just, you look at what we put a man on the moon, we can make a better CGM, okay? It'll happen.
Right.
It's happening. Yeah, and you remember where all this technology comes from. It comes from America, okay? And it's not the French, it's not the French and the Germans and the Swiss. They come up with things once in a while, but this country is designed to produce innovation, okay? And that's what we do in America. And I've heard different things about different sensors and different. Now there are sensors that are built just for, you can only get the sensor if you're using the pump. So the sensor senses your blood sugar, then goes to the insulin pump. It's got the insulin already on it, and it injects the right amount of insulin, and you have a quote unquote artificial pancreas, if you will. Okay, and some of those CGMs are very good. Okay, and they're accurate, and they have to be. Okay, otherwise they're going to kill you. Okay, and you got to know what your blood sugar is when you're type 1 diabetic. If you're not making insulin, you got to know where you're at. Are you going up? Are you going down? And 33,000 people every year, 33,000 people dial 911. They're in a low blood sugar state, and they're out. They're going out or they're out. A caregiver's calling, a neighbor's calling, or it was the last phone call they made. Okay, 33,000 times a year this happens. How many die? I don't know, but it's a critical situation. And when you can look up low blood sugar effects. Somebody goes, "What's your phone number?" 4. Who's the president? I don't know. What year is it? I don't know. You lose your mental capacity. Okay, and on the road to low blood sugar, you get irritable. So I was an irritable husband, okay? And nothing I could do about it, okay? So maybe my diabetes cost me a relationship or two. I think it did, okay? And
It's very
I'm past all that.
possible.
I'm 70 years old. Okay, the best of my life is ahead. I've got big plans. Okay, and next year I'm moving. I'm going to establish where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. And
Where are you
I got
moving to?
certain.
Do you know?
It's probably going to be Appalachia, Virginia. The Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. Things are cheap there. I can buy a house anywhere between $20,000 and $40,000. It might need a little bit of fixing
Wow.
up, and pay cash for it. And I'm a cash kind of guy. I have no debts, and I have my Social Security check is the national average. Okay, if you look up what the national average is, that's so I can't pay that. I can't. Okay. So I have certain okay.
We lost Paul. Everybody. So I want to say hi to Stephen Price. Stephen is watching from Facebook, and Pretzel Pete. Welcome, Pretzel Pete. And let me get Paul back on here. Sorry, I think we lost you. I think your internet might be a little bad right now.
Yeah. Are we okay right now?
We are okay right now. Oh, I
Okay.
do want to say Missy says she's wearing her sensor on her quad. And then she also mentioned that something about they now have a is it a CGM that lasts for a year implanted under the skin,
Yeah.
not available in Canada.
Right.
But she's type 1. She's type 1 diabetic, and she also said she would never go on a pump.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But I met a girl once. This was years ago. Guys, goes back to like 95. Okay. I met this girl who was on a pump, one of the first pumps there was. And she was a young lady, probably 20, 25. And she was in love. And she just said, it doesn't interfere with anything. And she goes, and I mean anything. So she was very happy with her pump. And the tube, there's tubeless pumps now. Okay. And your pump attaches to your body like a CGM sensor, and it just pumps in the insulin when it needs it. And it's Bluetooth to your CGM, and your CGM's telling it, okay, we're going low. We need 1.5 units of insulin, pump it in. And let's face it, we have built the artificial pancreas before we built the artificial heart. Artificial pancreas are now available. It's an insulin pump. Okay. And so when I went back to the same department for endocrinology, the new guy I was seeing was telling me about how one of his guys in his department is now carnivore. And I said, would that be Rodrigo? And he goes, yeah, you know Rodrigo? I said, yeah, he was my endocrinologist 4 years ago. He goes, oh, I see that in your record. Okay. I says, well, and I had given him a book. Okay. I was trying to convince doctors that this low carb was the way. So I said, I'll give him a book. And I bought, I think it was the Diabetes Code by Jason Fung.
Jason
Fung. I gave him the book.
Mm-hmm.
He never read it. Okay. He never read it. Maybe he read it a couple years later. He's now carnivore. He's battling pre-diabetes. Okay. And he went carnivore to do it. And 20 carbs a day wouldn't do it for him. Okay. He's very strict carnivore now. And I said, And slowly, things are slowly changing. Okay. Unfortunately, it's slow change. But and you look at Kilts. Okay. You know what Kilts is, don't you? He's a boy from Syracuse. If somebody could tell me what that means, I'd be interested because they don't understand it. That's a compliment to a man to be called a boy from Syracuse. Okay. Anyhow. And Kilts is amazing. Okay.
He's inspirational for sure.
And I think we're the same age. I think he just turned 70.
He did.
Yeah. So we're the same age. He was. I guess he grew up in Syracuse, and he was a high school failure. He did not do well in school, and so just look what you can become. I think I'm very inspired with the man, and
I just love his outlook on life. He's just so positive. I've never seen him like really get shaken or too upset, at least on camera. Maybe he does off camera, but he's just so calm, cool, and collected and caring, and it's just inspirational.
Look at the mental clarity. Look at the mental clarity at his age. Okay. I trust him as my doctor.
Juju says, Paul, what about a man from Buffalo? LOL, Josh Allen.
Well, let me tell you something about the boys from Syracuse. The boys from Syracuse is an air wing. In World War II, when a job had to be done, could not fail, they turned to the boys from Syracuse, okay? They were a flight group. They could fly anything, okay? And that's what they did. And so about 1990, some girl graduates from the Air Force Academy, and she's a fighter pilot, right? And she's upset that she's being referred to as a boy from Syracuse, which should be an honor to her, but it wasn't to her. And so she goes to court. Stop calling me a boy from Syracuse, okay? And the court agrees, and the boys from Syracuse were banned. It's no longer terminology in the United States Air Force. And, my father was Air Corps. He bombed Germany, 8 missions, shot down. I think I told the story. And that's the miracle that he survived that ditching in the Atlantic Ocean, okay? And I'm here. He survived that death-defying feat in 45. I was born in 56. That's part of the miracle of life. Your parents made it to fertilityhood. They were able to reproduce. That was a miracle. They didn't drink some bad water and get cholera and die. Okay? I'm serious. Chlorine in water has done wonders for America, okay? For the world. And so the fact that you're here is partly a miracle, okay? Other people didn't make it. Okay? So, and look at my grandparents had 11 kids. 10 survived. One had polio. I'm old enough. I had classmates who suffered from polio. You've never seen that probably.
No, and I don't.
You could be my daughter, okay? I'm 20 years older than you. And we had a guy on our wrestling team. His arms hung down to his ankles almost. He had short legs and a normal upper body. Polio. Okay? And I just don't know, And there's so much in this world, that there's so much to explore, so much to know. And I hope when I'm 94, the shotgun comes out and I'm forced to marry a beautiful 25-year-old, I got her pregnant, whatever. I hope that happens.
When you're 90?
Yeah, when 94, I have to have a shotgun wedding. I have to get married. She's pregnant, okay? That's the status of my health in 94. I was able to get this young woman pregnant, okay? And she loved me, whatever.
Oh, in 1994 or at age 94?
At age 94, okay?
Okay.
And at age 96, I go to bed one night and I don't wake up. And in the day before, I was having sex with a 27-year-old, okay? Well, that's how I want to go out. I don't want to go out. I can't get around. I'm in a wheelchair. I need help to go to the bathroom. I'm not doing that.
I'm with you there. I'm
not doing that. My father, they pried his dead body up off the garage floor, okay? am not going to a nursing home. Okay? And he says, you can pry my frozen dead body off the garage floor. And, he arranged his life so that, he died at age 81, and, he had heart disease, he had diabetes, and my dad was the king of sweets. He ate tons of sugar, and he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. He was physically fit. My dad played semi-pro football. Got $5 a game. Winning team gets $5 a player, okay? You had 12 men. You had one substitute. The other team had 12 men. They got nothing. If you lost, you got nothing. If you won, you got $5. Sunday afternoon, you made as much money in 1 hour as you made a whole day, a whole week, okay? And, my grandfather came here in 1910. Got on a ship with my grandmother. She was 18. He was 21. They got out to sea, and the captain married him. Captain has that power once he gets into international waters. It's his own country. Wrote out the marriage license, and they went to Ellis Island and got through Ellis Island. He was with 4 cousins. One of the cousins couldn't climb the steps at Ellis Island unaided and was sent back to Europe. Was not allowed into the country. And those 3 men went into Pennsylvania with the Salvaterra name and had 42 children.
And you said you're not Italian.
Nope.
Are you Italian? Where did they come from?
Did you miss the introduction, Salvaterra?
You said it was cutting out, so I didn't hear the whole thing. So I apologize.
So in the late 1300s, at the Black Plague in Europe, Wilhelm Bernalini got on a ship with his family and sailed the Mediterranean Ocean up and down the African coast, and 3 generations lived on a ship. Okay, and so my 11th great grandfather in 1452 married an Egyptian bride. She was a teen bride, and they went to Genoa. The plague was over, and all they had was a story. And they traveled north until they met the Bernalinis in the mountains of Switzerland and what is now northern Italy, where the village my grandfather grew up in is in northern Italy, but in 1889 it was part of Austria. Okay, today it's part of Italy. My grandfather's birth certificate says Austria on it, and this is the home of where the modern day violin came from, that area, that region of the world, the Tyrolean region, okay? And in Syracuse, New York, there is the Tyrol Club. People who have Tyrol lineage belong to the club. My family was a member of the club for years. And they lived a hippie life. In the village of Tion, they lived a hippie lifestyle, a communal lifestyle, okay? And during the wintertime, they made violins. My grandfather came to America with his violin that he made in his late teens, early 20s. And it burned in a fire. And but I have a reproduction violin made by a little old man in North Carolina that looks a lot like it. And so
very cool.
My father used to tell stories to the small children in the family. And so he had this little song, okay? And it went, tell me a story. You said you would if I was good. I've been good, so you got to give in. Tell me a story. And I've Googled this and I found it, okay? Yesterday, I finally found it. It's a 1953 record release from somebody, okay? It's got all these little ditties on it like this, okay? And here's something for you. This is my gift to you tonight, okay? I know you're a rockin' music type person. You need to. Yeah. There's a man. His name was Tony Big something, and he's the guy who wrote all the little ditties for Southwest Airlines. Because we love you. Well, he wrote all these crazy little songs. Okay, and the crazy little songs go like, "Snap your fingers to the beat and repeat. It's going to be right. It's going to be right. It's going to be right." Okay. And he had these little songs for you're going to go up on stage and give a presentation. You're nervous. Well, here's how you calm your nerves, okay? And he had all these little things, and he had 4 children. He had a little motivational song about each one of his kids, emphasizing their great personality traits and stuff like that. And the guy's just have you had your hugs today? If not, then right away. It takes 4 hugs just to keep the blues away. 8 for maintenance. And if you want to grow, you got to have 12 hugs a day. Have you had your hugs today? If not, then right away. And you can find all this on YouTube, okay? And she's busy taking notes. I got to get this.
I wrote it down. Oh, we got Brian Ariza watching from Facebook. Welcome, Brian. And my dad says my wife's paternal great grandmother, was a Ferrari from Piacenza, Italy, where the Ferrari car and racetrack was born. So that would be my let's see, it was my great grandparents, I believe, came from Piacenza, Italy. So that's near Milan.
I've done the DNA testing. I'm 4% Egyptian.
That's cool.
After 11 generations, it stuck around that much, okay? And I just, my grandfather was my grandfather came to America in 1910. America is the best place in the world. There's no place better than America. He spoke a broken German dialect, and he bought a dairy. He bought a house, had a team of horses, a wagon, and a bobsled. He delivered milk. He bought the milk from the farmers, pasteurized it, bottled it, delivered it door to door. And that was the beginning of the Salvaterra family, Salvaterra and Sons, and almost all of my 30 cousins and 10 aunts and uncles. Almost everybody lived within 1 mile of my grandmother's house. I had one aunt. I didn't know she was my aunt because she lived 15 miles away. I didn't think we were related. And I always saw her with somebody else. And I thought she was my grandmother's. She was the descendant of my grandmother's sister. That's what I thought she was. I didn't know she was my grandmother's child. And I didn't know that until I was 22 years old. I finally found her. She had a daughter a year older than me who died. And my cousins asked me, "Are you going to the funeral?" I said, "No." He said, "You're not going to your cousin's funeral? What's wrong with you?" It's my cousin? Oh, I didn't know. There's 30 of us running around. And if you didn't live within 1 mile, you were outside the family boundary, And,
Mhm.
and my parents grew up, they were both Depression children. They only had a 6th grade education. And God bless them. When they put $20 in the bank, it was gone. You didn't go and take it out to pay a bill with. You struggled to figure out how to pay that bill without going to the bank. And it was insane how they lived. And my
Mhm.
father was of the notion he could learn to do anything. He learned how to build a house. He learned how to fix a car. He didn't know any of that stuff. Okay. And my dad's first job in the World War II was? He was on
No,
a
what?
Indian motorcycle, government issue Indian motorcycle in Central and South America, riding through the jungle, trading cans of evaporated milk, which the natives very highly valued for their babies, and for rubber, for the war effort. That's what he did. That was his initial assignment. And driving a motorcycle around the jungles of South America and Central America, collecting rubber.
Wow.
And
So
he
I have a
was the
question
fourth.
for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I wanted to know, and this is something I wanted to know about your family and your friends. Do they support like your way of eating? Is it easier for them to support because you have diabetes? Whereas like someone like me who just was overweight, because I was told like you're going to kill your liver, you're going to kill your kidneys, right? So they terrified me. People terrified me, but people who have diabetes, I think it's a little more, yeah, you need to eat low carb kind of thing, What's your perspective on that?
Okay, well, I'll tell you. I have a son-in-law who, when he sees blood dripping, he goes for the jugular. Okay, and he he teases my grandchildren unmercifully, in my opinion, at times. He's a wonderful dad, okay, but sometimes he just goes a little too far. And he's same thing with adults. You know, he drives certain people in the family absolutely crazy. And so you know, he was a vegetarian, and I was, you know, I would go to their home and I might cook something for the whole family, okay, and
Mhm.
well, I don't eat meat, and my daughter would say, just sneak it in there, he'll never know the difference. And I saw him get in my daughter's face. I don't eat meat. Well, this went on for about 3 years, and he was kind of in a very bad state, and they had to call the ambulance to take him to the hospital. And the doctor said, you need beef, minimum 4 ounces a day. Okay. And you better get on it quick. And he was deficient. I don't know all the details, but a year later, I get a phone call. What's this diet you're doing? Okay. And so I go to my daughter's home. My daughter's absolutely wonderful. I bring eggs with me. I bring butter with me. I bring ground beef with me. I'm very blessed. We have a family grocery store here that has their own meat department. You could see the quarters and sides of beef hanging in the meat cooler. They cut it all fresh. They grind their own beef every day. So you know what the ground meat is. You can see the table scraps just get ground up. And so yeah, I get, you know, I've heard all this, you know, people tell me, aren't you worried about your heart? Aren't you worried about this? Aren't you worried about that? No, I've done the research. I'm confident in what I've done, you know, and we're pioneers, okay? Other people haven't done this. There's not a lot of carnivores out there that are 5, 10 years old. They're not there. You know, Rick and Maggie, they're two very rare dots on the chart.
They are.
Okay, and you remember there's only 2 points on the chart. That's it. Now, 10
Mhm.
years from now, think of the conversations we're going to be having. Well, I've been carnivore for 14 years. I've been carnivore for 13 years. Okay, and we're going to have a wealth of n equal ones. Okay, all right,
Mhm.
and you know, I don't think Rick's going to grow his toes back, but I expect him to be healthy and doing
Thomas, you
well.
mean, yeah.
Thomas, yeah,
Thomas,
Thomas,
yeah.
and yeah, you know, and you know, I expect I'm going to be. I have bold ambitions for the next 10 years. Okay, and I'm not going to say all of what those are, but I intend to have. I've got some objectives that I expect to achieve. I have been a market gardener. I grew vegetables and sold them at the farmer's market. I can tell you stories about vegetables at the farmer's market and make your hair curl. Okay, it's not always what you think it is. So I was in North Carolina. In North Carolina, if you want to make your own pickles and sell them at the farmer's market, you have to have a North Carolina pickle license. So I'd walk up to a farm stand and I'd say, and they'd probably say, well, we made these pickles. I go, oh. See, I thought about doing that, but I was kind of dissuaded. Could I pass the pickle licensing test, you know? Oh, I go, do you have a pickle license? Could I see your pickle license? Well, we don't really have a pickle license. We have a friend that makes these for us. But you just claimed you made them. You lied to me about the source of these food. So you got to know your grower, okay? And what do we hear in the carnivore scene all the time? I'm going to buy me a side of beef and I'm going to beat the prices. I'm going to have organic beef. How are you going to protect that beef? Do you have a dual alarm system on your freezer? Do you know if your freezer is getting electricity or has that circuit been broken? Or is the temperature rising in your freezer? And if you're having an issue with your freezer, do you have a backup plan? Can a
Right.
power outage? In a power outage for 3 weeks, which happens anywhere in the planet, okay? Can you sustain that freezer?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. What are you going to do when you lose $2,000 worth of steaks? Okay. And you see all these people going wild about all different kinds of things. Okay. And, you know, and when you know, the risk when you buy a cow, what if you bought a tough cow? tough cows exist, okay?
Mhm.
Sometimes the meat from a cow isn't that good, okay? I grew up on Holstein Angus. So a dairy farmer, where I grew up in upstate New York, I grew up in the most productive dairy farm in the state. And I had a job feeding the cows at one time. And so the first time a heifer gets pregnant, they inseminate her with a Angus bull, which is a smaller breed than a Holstein. So she's going to have a smaller calf. And it's going to be less stress on the heifer. And that calf that comes out is worthless. It's not going to be a dairy animal. And if it's a steer or a calf or a female, it can be raised for meat, and we raise those for meat. And we never raised one, get lonely, get sick. Never raised three, they fight over food. You raise two or you raise a herd. They're herd animals, okay? They have a herd instinct. And we would butcher these animals. I never ate liver, I never ate kidney, never ate it, never touched it. We fed it to the dogs. Okay? And things aren't always what they appear. You want to know how I fed the cows? I would take this great big Rubbermaid cart. It had, I don't know, just 20 bushel in it. I push it under the discharge to the great big 60-foot silo. I push the electric button. The motor would come on and it would fill with chopped hay. This was chopped alfalfa. It's called ensilage, okay? A lot of people out there don't know what ensilage is. It's chopped green stuff, okay? You fill a silo as rapid as you can to snuff out the oxygen. That's the higher the quality of the feed. This feed has a protein content of 20%, and it's what makes the milk. Every cow got like almost a bushel basket full of that, okay? And I put that right in front of the stanchion where the cow was going to go. And it took 90 cows. It took 4 or 5 trips with that great big Rubbermaid container on wheels, okay? Then I take the same container, stick it under the silage silo, which was chopped corn, the whole corn stalk, the whole ear of corn, all gets chopped up. And it's up, and I take 1 gallon scoop, and cows love that stuff. Oh, that corn's so sweet and it's fermented. It tastes so good. Cows love it. And I put that right on top of their the hay, the ensilage. And then what I do? I got a cart and I got a 50-pound bag of minerals, vitamin pill, right? I got a little measuring cup. I take a scoop and I dump it right on top of that corn. Okay, that's got potassium in it. It's got sodium in it. It's got calcium in it. It's got chloride in it. It's the essential minerals that the cow needs. Okay. Every farmer I've ever worked for or been around, and even to this day on Amish farms, they all take very good care of their animals. We are all mammals. Cows are mammals. If they have a potassium deficiency, it's going to show up as a deformity often. Okay. I've never seen a cow or a goat or a sheep with a potassium deficiency. It does happen in third world countries. But I've seen the pictures in the veterinarian books. It's devastating, okay? And this is the farmer's livelihood. He takes good care of his livestock. Mammals are mammals. We have somebody out there talking about, cows not getting enough magnesium. So it's not in your meat. Well, guess what? If they have a magnesium deficiency, they're going to be sickly. And if you studied mammal biology, you should know all this. But it doesn't come out, okay? He's a medical doctor. He's not talking about, doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't know the full story. Here's the world. And here's where we need to go. I'm totally against this whole. I met Bobby Kennedy Sr., okay? Bobby Kennedy. I met him in 1967. Shook hands with him. New York State Fair, August 29th, 5:43 p.m. He's coming up the path. He stopped, talked to me and my mom for 5 minutes. Shook his hand, remembered all my grade school introductions, introduced my mother properly to Bobby Kennedy. First famous man I met, shot down dead 6 months later in LA, right? Sirhan. And So what are we doing? We need to get the education. We need to teach kids at an early age what are the 5 metabolic factors you need to be concerned about. Your triglycerides, your HDL, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and I think we need to throw fasting insulin in there. And what's your height to waist ratio? Okay, those are the important things. Those are the basis, the foundation of our life. Okay, I was working a couple years ago. I was working at a factory, and there's this good sized woman, and she was 18. She was type 2 diabetic. And I see her in the break room. She's eating a banana. I go, oh my God, why would you do? She doesn't know. What's more nutritious? This is a good test for the coach here. Okay, you're on this is your test round right here. So we got Cheerios, skim milk, and sliced banana. That's breakfast 1, okay? Breakfast 2 is a full-size Snickers bar and a can of Coke. Not Diet Coke, a can of Coke. Which one is the better breakfast? Quick now.
Neither.
No, the Coke and Snickers wins. It's a better breakfast.
Really?
Yeah. It's got less sugar. It's got less sugar.
I honestly didn't know, but they both sounded disgusting to me.
Yeah, I know they sound disgusting, but I had a class in college. I went to a different manufacturing plant every week, okay? Factory tour, right? I went to Abbott Laboratories. Here I am fighting with Abbott Laboratories about my glucose. And they sharpen the needle that they inject directly into your heart that the paramedics use to stimulate your heart back to life, okay? I saw those being manufactured, okay? I saw Chevy engines being built on the factory floor. I saw radiators for your car being built right on the floor. I saw Cheerios being made, okay? I saw the quality control of Cheerios. I saw the cake mixes being made and tested. They fed that crap to their employees, okay? Every batch, when you go in, you see the Duncan Hines and Pillsbury cake mixes on the frosting aisle there, all that stuff's right there. A batch maybe makes 1,000 boxes. They take one of those boxes out and they bake it in an oven just like you have at home. They got a mixer right there just like you have at home. They mix the thing up. They add the 3 eggs and the whole cup of oil to it, and they bake it up and they put it in the break room. They test everything. That's how they do it. And I've seen this stuff, okay? I've been involved in manufacturing all my life. I've been in food processing. My last job was a food processing plant. We made all the Amish recipes. And we made Amish macaroni salad. And this is a big, you imagine your bathtub. Well, this tank was 5-6 times as bigger than your bathtub. Probably take 10 bathtubs equal to this thing. Guess how much sugar we put into that? 4 50-pound bags. 4 50-pound bags of sugar.
Wow.
And macaroni salad. I've never put sugar in my macaroni salad, but this is supposedly an old Amish recipe, and people love this stuff. And you're eating sugar. You can taste it. You can taste the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It almost doesn't dissolve. Okay, it almost is gritty. And like, what are we doing? And people, and and think of all the things that we hear that there's not even an ounce of truth to. Okay, meat's bad for the kidneys. Where'd you get that from? Well, the doctor that I did my residency under, he told me that. No facts, nobody did any investigation, but meat's bad for the kidneys. Meat causes gout. And look at Ken Berry. Who called Ken Berry show? Who tried to get on Ken Berry show to get an answer? Can I do the carnivore diet? I've got gout. How can I eat? And somebody says, you can eat all the meat you want. Doesn't cause gout. Here's a 10-minute video to go watch. And semi-retired Bob began his healing that day. And Bob thinks God went into his computer and pulled up that screen and gave it to him. Maybe he did.
Hi, Louise. So we got Louise watching. Louise Benning just tuned in. It is 8:30, Paul. Boy, the time has flown. Can you believe it?
I believe it because I can talk, and and I could tell you story after story after story after story. And let me just say this: don't ever be afraid to listen to anybody, because there may be one little germ of truth, or one little germ of one
Mhm.
little hint that may change your thinking, or make you think about something, or might motivate you. Okay, and here I am. I've been on a serious medical journey for almost 5 years. July 1st will be 5 years of what I call my medical journey, better health. Okay, and I learned so much from Amy. Okay, I'm learning about diabetes every day from Amy. Okay,
Mhm.
she's a blessing to me, and I'm very happy with just eating beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I don't need a whole lot of variety, but I'm very thankful for what. And I have a lot of cooking skills. I will have to make a confession. Before I got on this health journey, my hobbies were ice cream making. Okay, I had 3 electric ice cream makers. Okay, 6-quart ice cream makers, and I had I made I was a bread aficionado. I made all kinds of bread and pizza. Okay, and I had very tough critics. My son was a chef, very harsh critic, and my sister was an excellent cook, extremely harsh critic. You know, and there was no nicety at our table when it came to quality of food. There was no there was no politeness. It was knife and daggers. It was just wasn't pretty. And I got their approval on my pizza. And so now I just bought a pizza, one of those pizza things with the holes in it for a crispier pizza crust. And about a week ago, I made the cloud bread pizza dough with the cottage cheese and the egg whites and egg yolks. I made that,
Mhm.
and so now I got my 11-inch. I'm a big cheesecake guy. I make cheesecake for the holidays. That's my
I love
go-to.
cheesecake.
Yeah, and so you all know the story about George Stella.
No.
Late 1990s, George Stella was a chef. He was a fat chef, fat wife, 2 fat boys. Okay, fat farm. And he says, I got to do something here. So he discovered low carb real quick. Put his whole family on a low carb diet. They lost over 400 pounds. 4 people, 400 pounds gone. Okay, and he wrote some cookbooks, and you get these on thrift books for $5. Okay. And George
Mhm.
Stella has a cheesecake. It's a New York ricotta style cheesecake. It's wonderful. Okay. And I was in love at one time, and that relationship didn't work out. It lasted like 10 years. And I had a potential mother in law, and she was a great cook. And when she had my George Stella cheesecake, she says, I got to have this recipe. This is my go to cheesecake now. Okay. So, about the highest award you can get. And
Yum.
he's just got a cookbook. He's got a cookbook out in the last 5 years. He goes, it's called like 20 years later or something. He's still doing low carb, and everybody looks healthy. Okay, they maintained this lifestyle for over 20 years. Okay, so don't tell me we can. There's this lady. I think her name is Sarah. She's a medical doctor. She was carnivore. Now she's anti-carnivore. Okay, so you got to have carbs.
I've been talking about her. I can't remember her name.
Sarah something. And she's got the whole alphabet. She's got, I think I counted 12 letters after her name, about all of her, degrees and all that kind of stuff, and qualifications and certifications. And she tells you how she's taught at the university of this, the university of that, and she's got decades of experience. She hasn't been in the field over 20 years, but she's got decades. Okay, and you can't argue with me because I'm right there. And so I just text her. I commented on her thing. I said, so I said Baker and Chafee and Barry and you know all the ones I've mentioned before too. I said they're all wrong and you're
Right.
right. And they go, I don't get it, and see, and this is something that you could do a show on, or somebody could do a show on. What are the 10 or 12 red flags? So when you see a certain flag go up, you just disconnect from that person. Well, obviously, if they believe in cholesterol and heart disease, that's a red flag. Okay, if they're counting calories, that's a red flag. if you know, there's all the different red flags. Okay, red meat causes cancer. That's a
Mhm.
flag. You know, you just move on. You know, and you know, I've moved on. There's certain people I don't really pay much attention to anymore. Okay, I won't name them by name. And I was donating. I was a member of their group. I was paying $1 or $2 a month. You know, and they would ignore my comments. They wouldn't answer my questions on their lives. I said, why am I giving this person $2 a month? And sometimes it was more than that. And I thought, why am I bothering with this person, you know?
Mhm.
And so I've withdrawn all my support from such places. And the thing I like the best, because I like the forum, I like Carnivore Talk on Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern
I do
Time.
too. I do
Because,
too.
and let's just say you just discovered this community. If you were if you were really smart, you would go on and say, look, I just discovered you people. I think I see some truth here. Here's my issues. What do I do? Okay. I'm in your hands, you know? And you got people there. I mean, look at Bob. His kidneys were virtually destroyed by a drug. Okay.
Right.
What a story, you know? Look at Jeff. Crying out loud. Guy should be in the grave. He's not. He's thriving. He's my age. We're the same age. And he's out pounding posts and he's running, you know, he's growing his own food, and butchering his own food, you know, doing everything. And these people that come on, you know, it's great. And you know what? I wish more people would come on to shows and more interviews being done because I want to
I
get to
do
know
too.
you. And I
Mhm.
might learn something from you. And I'll tell you what, the first time I saw you, first it was just like in the last 9 months or so, I found you on, and I listened to you were being interviewed by somebody or you were telling your story. And I thought, oh my God, this doesn't end. You know,
7
issue after
surgeries.
issue after issue after issue after issue. And by the time I got to the end of the thing, I'm in tears. I felt so sorry for you.
But
And I gotta
Paul,
admit,
it
yeah,
it boils down to one issue, inflammation.
but
All of
yeah,
that I
yeah.
believe was inflammation. So, anyway, I'm sorry to depress you.
Well, you know, and I'll just confess this, okay? You know, it's like when I'll tell you, my son was in the hospital. He was in the children's, you know, we were in pediatrics. He had his leg cut off.
Mm.
And in the middle of the night, you don't have, you know, you're living in a hospital for a week. It's just totally different life. So you walk the halls and you don't have to say anything to the other parent. There's this telepathic connection. Okay. Yeah, we're all here in the same boat, you know? And I saw 31 kids and I said, we're number 29 or 30 on the list. Everybody else has got it worse than we got it, much worse than we got it. Okay. I remember Stuart, his organs were not growing. His heart was undersized. His liver was, all his organs were undersized. So they decided to stop his growth. So I gave him some drug to stop him from growing so he could be a functioning human being. And I thought, God. And you know, when you got cancer, you're going to the doctors all the time initially. And I could tell you some really funny stories. I tell you, my son, he was, Justin's very jovial, very people orientated. He's a great guy. Okay. And so he, the nurse comes in and says, it was actually a doctor, and she was a female, and she was very attractive female, and she must have got up 2 hours early to put her makeup on and get dressed. Okay, she was a knockout walking through the hospital, right? And she comes to me and she says, "I got to talk to your son. I have to have a private conversation with him about his testicles." I go, "Oh, okay." And I says, I need to show him how to examine his testicles because if the cancer's going to spread, we're worried about his lungs and his testicles. Okay. So, all right.
Mhm.
So I explained to my son what was going to happen. He says, "Can you get rid of mom?" I said, "I'll take your mom out for a donut. She won't be around. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. And so that's what we did. And so he woke up from surgery and the surgeon was an excellent surgeon. Said, "I did your son a favor. I put his catheter in. I catheterized him, so he'd be peeing into the bag in the bed. I did it while he was out. I didn't do it while he was awake, you know. So I explained to my son, this is the morning after the surgery, I explained to him that he has a catheter in him and, you know, he just peeing naturally into a bag. So he looks down there. He goes, Dad, it's gone. It's about to cry. I go, what's gone? My penis is gone. I don't have penis. It's gone. So we call the nurse over, you know. Nurse whips back the bed sheet, says, oh, you got a severe case of penile retraction.
Oh man.
This happens when you sometimes this can happen, okay? So when we pull that tube out, everything should come back to normal.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
even
That'd
in your
be
worst
traumatic
moments,
though.
even in your worst moments, okay, there's joy to be had, okay? And I remember this girl at church. She was in a wheelchair, been in a wheelchair since the day she was born. And she was a couple of years, I think she was a year or two older than my son. He was 12, she was, I think, 14. They were, you know, very young kids. And when people in the church pulled away from my son, they didn't want to know him. Why would you want to get to know somebody who's going to die in a year? Why would you make a relationship with somebody who's going to die? They withdrew from my son.
Oh.
But her and my son, they talked every Sunday, okay? And they both laughed, you know. And I know he cheered her up, and I know she cheered him up, okay? And as far as I know, she was going to be in a wheelchair the rest of her life. And these things, you know what the boys did? My son's class, they took pieces of rope and tied their leg up behind their thigh, so they looked like an amputee.
Oh.
And they spent a day as an amputee to know what he was going through.
That's
So here he is. He got his leg amputated in the summer. You go back to school in August, you know. And in between classes, he had these compression socks on his stub to, you know, for healing. And he was on crutches. He didn't have his leg yet, and so he would take these off, and he would massage his stub, you know. And this one girl says, "I don't like looking at that. Like, you're offending me. I don't like looking at that." He goes, "I look at it every day." And you know what happens to amputees? Your brain forgets you lost your leg. So you wake up at night and you gotta go pee, or you wake up in the morning, you gotta get out of bed, and guess what? You fall right on your ass.
You fall down.
Yeah, you forgot you don't have a leg. Okay. And thank God for John. John Rufty, Hickory, North Carolina, was an amputee himself. And our surgeon who cut my son's leg off said, I think the people who are going to make your leg for your son, I don't think they have your best interest at heart. I think you may want to shop around, you know? So we lived about 45 minutes north of the hospital, and I looked up people who make artificial limbs, and there's two places in town. I called the one place. I said, are you any good? And he goes, well, we make legs. I said, well, you have a good day. Yeah, I didn't see any excitement or drive or anything. He wasn't going to make a leg for my son. He wasn't into it, okay? So I called up John, 4:20 in the afternoon. John goes into his sales pitch, okay? And I said, John, shut up. I listened to him for 5 minutes. I said, just shut up for a minute. I said, just answer one question. Are you any good? He said, I'm the man. I make people walk. I said, you're hired. It was the beginning of a great relationship. And I remember, you know, you go into the office, you see other people there who've lost limbs. And there was a young lady, she was bilateral below the knee amputee. Both legs amputated below the knee. And one arm gone. She was a waitress. And she had a weight problem, but it wasn't real bad. At that point in time, she'd been on the fen-phen drug.
Oh.
Lost 3 limbs to fen-phen, okay? 3 limbs. And so, you know, what you see people go through, you know, it's crazy. And what do we do to people, you know? And, you know, I think all the people, if I was the president of the United States, I'd bring charges against the ADA. American Diabetes Association, I'd lock them up. They don't deserve to even walk the streets. what have they done for diabetes in the last 20 years? Absolutely nothing. It's gotten worse. It's not really their fault, but they put these recipes on there. Like Dr. Berry says, look, the serving size is 1 inch by 2 inch. That won't feed a toddler. And it's 38 carbs.
Yep.
What are we doing, I have seen my granddaughter one time. She took an entire bag of grapes. Every grape's a carb. And she ate the whole bag. Okay? I'm talking a grocery store bag of grapes. And this is the other thing. People go on, these doctors go, well, crops aren't what they were years ago. They don't know the difference between GMO engineering, and hybridization. They don't know the difference. They talk like it's all the same. Okay? They don't know what a heirloom really is. They don't know what, I had a neighbor in North Carolina. He grew limber twig corn. It's a white corn. And every year, his grandfather, his father, and now him would harvest their crop, 7 acres of corn, and they would take the biggest ears they could find and shell it out. Any deformed seeds they would grind up, or feed to the chickens or grind it up for cornmeal. It was the best cornmeal there was. And they take those great big seeds and plant them the next year. Over 80 years, the corn kernels got so big, just continuing the genetics year after year, adapting to that land. They had to notch the planter. They had to go take the seed plate off the planter and notch out bigger notches to handle the bigger seeds. Okay, that's how big. And this corn grew 16 feet tall. Okay, it's amazing. You couldn't beat the cornmeal this guy grew, and that is seed saving and genetically adapting to your environment. Just as our ancestors, we all have different ancestors. Maybe your ancestors come from an area where, they survived a lot of dairy, or maybe they ate a lot of meat, or they ate a lot of seafood. And now that fits your genetics. So we are all a little bit different, but we're not different in our human physiology. We're different in our environmental effect of our ancestors. And that can change you and change the different seeds of the world. And
right. Well, so Paul, it's been 2 hours. So I think that I'm going to, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been a special night. You are just a beloved member of this community with so much knowledge, such a smart guy. I want to thank you for coming on. And where can people find you? Do you have any social media, or do you just pop into the live streams?
Well, you all see I'm Paul Salvaterra. So my father's name was Dominic, and I inherited that middle name. So Paul, D as in Dominic, Salvaterra at Gmail. Only one person's ever emailed me in my life from this. But I pop in, I don't do YouTube. I'm on Facebook, but if you sent me a message, I may or may not be able to read it. I'm not real good at Facebook. I am participating in the type 1 diabetic carnivore. I'm in that group
community,
and that's administrated by Amy. And I've signed up for groups before. I never heard from them. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I'll see you tomorrow night, I'm sure, right? On Carnivore Talk.
I'll be on Carnivore Talk, and I'm going to go back through my whole CGM thing. And, I don't, there's so much out there.
Hi, Meathead. Do you remember me, Kurt? Do you remember Kurt from Carnivore Talk?
Yeah.
He just popped in to say hi.
Good.
Everyone's saying have a good night. So
more people need to come on.
So I just want to thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. And we'll do this again sometime. I would love to have you back on. And everybody in the chat, thank you for showing up. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate Paul. You have such a powerful story and so much information to give. And we really appreciate that. So before we go, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to Paul and pop him off the screen because we got to do the credits, right? We got to show the credits of everybody who participated. So good night, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Talk
much.
to you
You have a good day
soon.
now.
All
Goodbye
right.
bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thank you, Paul. It was a great interview, such a powerful message. And we're going to do the rolling credit. Here we go, guys. Thank you all.
Oh, yeah. Lights fade low, the bacon's done. We rocked the stream and had some fun. Kids are rock stars in the rocking crew. Stay strong, we're gonna roll with you. Yeah, we're gonna keep rolling on. We're gonna keep rolling on. Yeah, we're gonna keep rolling on. Yeah, we're gonna keep rolling on. Rockin' till the credits roll.